Hello everyone, Andrew here, and welcome to Donkey Kong Country 2 on the GBA, the long-awaited video. You can tell it's the GBA version because the intro is just completely different. I don't know why they had to change that, but it's just one of many questionable changes we're sure to encounter throughout this video. Wow, 2004, so this game is now officially 15 years old. And, yeah, that's the title screen. Not sure, again, like, why did they change that? What was wrong with the original title screen? This is, of course, just, the box art, which was used on the Super Nintendo version, and once again rehashed for the Game Boy Advance version, and then turned into a title screen now for some reason. Also, that title screen music, the quality is very low compared to the Super Nintendo one. But, yeah, so these days there's not really any reason to play the Game Boy Advance version, I don't think. That's why it took me so long to find it. It's just something that has not been on my mind in so many years. If I ever go back to play DKC2, it's always going to be the Super Nintendo version. The reason you would want this back in the day, and the reason that I bought it, was because, as Donkey Kong Country 2 was one of my all-time favorite games, I wanted to have it to, available to play on the go. My family, we did a lot of traveling, road trips and such. It was great to be able to have that when I wanted to play it. However, if you really want to play it now, when you're not at your TV, you can actually buy it on the eShop, the 3DS eShop, if you have the new 3DS, so that's probably the best way to go about playing it portably now. Anyway, let's actually get started here. Of course, there were a few other new features too, like some bonus games and stuff added in, but I didn't really, the Game Boy Advance games like to do that, add in little mini-games and such, but I never really thought that, mini-games were what was missing from the Donkey Kong Country series, so they just kind of seem like added fodder, and they can be a little bit fun, but it's not really what I'm looking for when I just want to play some good old platforming DKC2. So my original file here, almost 20 hours of playing this game. But again, when you're out and about, in the car, what else are you going to do? Here's another one of those kind of questionable changes though, where the map is completely different. Where it's like really zoomed in and washed out and just does not look too good at all. So again, we've talked about the music, title screen music being quite a bit, quite sad. The graphics, unfortunately, also quite washed out and squished, but I guess it's to be expected when you're transferring Super Nintendo games to the Game Boy Advance. Anyway, what we actually want to do in this video is check out World 6. Now that I think about it, I don't think that you go to Funky to change worlds anymore. That's right, all of the Kong family members now actually lead you to bonus games for whatever reason. The bonus games I was just referring you to. And there's no way for me to get out of this now, so we're stuck reading all this text that we're not actually reading. And we're suddenly in a helicopter minigame of some sort. We got tens floating around. Is that Tiny Kong from Donkey Kong 64? Why? That's just such a weird thing. Anyway. So how do you switch worlds then? Maybe you just press like B to take you back to the overworld map, because we totally bailed. If you want to go to the store and buy banana sauce, you do it yourself. I'm not doing your chores for you, no more. Okay, so the B button does not appear to be doing anything. Start brings up a menu. 68 DK coins. That is a disgusting number of DK coins. Like, I think what happens is mini-games like the one we were just doing now reward you with DK coins, but why? There's supposed to be a special item that you receive, one per level, but when you just start handing them out like candy, they kind of lose that effect. I think there's also golden feathers down there. I think that there's one of those hidden in each level. Okay, so we can also change kind of the tabs here. Well, you can even view Cranky's help anytime you want. I like that there's a level list, just like in Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World, when you can kind of go through, see all the different levels you've collected, all the dragon coins and stuff in. I definitely think that's a cool addition. But ew, 68 DK coins. There's also a scrapbook where throughout the game you collect cameras, or like by defeating certain enemies, you'll get a camera from them, which will then be added to here, naturally, reflecting whichever enemy you got that camera from. And it looks like by completing a page, you get a DK coin, but why? Why can't the cameras and filling up the scrapbook just be the reward itself? Why were DK coins needed for that? Again, if we spent all day questioning every change that this game made, we would probably be here for all eternity. But what I think we want to do is go to the Gyrocopter here. Okay, so this is what allows us to change worlds. And again, it's really zoomed in. And I can't even really tell what the overworld map looks like. This doesn't look like Crocodile Isle. It just looks like mishmash cereal. And we can even go down. How is that creme key It's literally a boardwalk. It's like Bridge Zone from the Game Gear version of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's not a key. Like, we're on a floating bridge. I mean, I guess it's not floating? I don't know, the perspective here is very weird. Crocodile Cauldron. Like, for some reason you start at the bottom right side of the map instead of the bottom left. I don't know. Like, that's just so strange. If they're gonna squish down the rest of the game to fit on the screen, why could they not have, you know, found a better way to transfer the original maps in? It just does not look very good. And at the very top, I mean, the top of the map looks okay because it's kind of thinner, but when you're down here, it's like, it's hard to even see what's going on. Again, though, I said I was going to let up on the complaints, which aren't really complaints, but more criticisms, which again, it just needs to be understood that, you know, it's on the Game Boy Advance. So it's not going to be a perfect port, that's for sure. Anyway, moving on to the top of this world. What we actually need to look at is... Wait a minute. Castle Crush after Arctic Abyss. Yeah, okay, I did see that correctly. Why is Castle Crush the second level of World 6? It's supposed to be Windy Well. Clapper's Cavern is supposed to be the fourth. And then you're supposed to be after the second level, which is normally Windy Well. And then there's Windy Well. So Windy Well is for some reason now the fourth level of World 6? Now that's, you know, want to speak about changes that make absolutely no sense. I mean, it's not like Windy Well's even that hard of a level, so like, you know, they moved it forward a bit. Plus it's in the same world anyway. So it's not like, you know, moving it up a whole 2 levels really makes all that much of a difference. Maybe it's because of the way that the map looks. Like, this is, you know, the icy area of the map, so it had to be Clapper's Cavern, which is, of course, the ice level. And, you know, this is the only place that Windy Well fit. Does that mean that, you know, they drew the map, and then they were like, oh, we drew it kind of incorrectly. And then, you know, Chain Link Chamber, as it's supposed to be, Monkey's Flights 2, Toxic Tower, and then the boss. But then, if you go past the boss, there's Swanky's Bonus Bonanza, which doesn't even make, you know, knowledge of Swanky. It's just Bonus Bonanza. Wow, this is weird. And I'm just kind of like, you know, mind blown, because obviously, like I said, you know, I played it a lot back in the day, because it was great to be able to take places, but I haven't probably touched it in over 10 years, so a few of these changes are really blowing my mind. But the main attraction of this video, you know, like 7 minutes in, we're finally getting to it. What else would you expect from my videos, honestly? Sorry to anybody who just randomly came across this, has no idea what I do here. But we are going to be showing the new boss, which was added into the end of World 6. Normally, K-Rool's Keep just ends with kind of this room, you see DK, and it's like, oh, he was taken away, and then you go up and, you know, to the 7th and quote-unquote final world, which isn't really the final world, but where you do eventually rescue DK. But they figured that for the Game Boy Advance remake, they were going to do something new, and they added in a brand new boss here to end World 6, so that's what we're going to be checking out today. And Swanky Kong is here for some reason. That's weird. Only 10 banana coins. Okay, so I should mention here that the name of the new boss which we're about to fight is Kerozene. And kerosene is kind of like this gas or oil which you put in things like lamps to light them up. So it's like a fuel sort of thing. And the way it's normally spelled is Kerosene. So for the Donkey Kong Country 2 boss, they changed the S into a Z or a Z, as you can see on screen right now. But what really doesn't make any sense is the fact that that's not how the Donkey Kong naming gimmick worked. Usually they take words that begin with C and change their first letter to a K. So changing an S to a Z? Again? Very questionable change? It just doesn't follow the theme that, you know, any of the Donkey Kong Country games have done. So I don't know what they were thinking about with that one, but yeah, I guess we're gonna have to pay to fight him. Apparently my best record is a minute 31. Sure, take my money. Not sure why, you know, you have the right to do that. But it is what it is. So this is Kerosene, definitely a different boss from what you would normally expect from Donkey Kong Country 2, where they're usually kind of like, you know, smaller things like Crow and King Zing Sting and such. Also, come to think about that, they didn't change the name of this level, where normally in Donkey Kong Country 2, or really all the Donkey Kong Country games, the name of the boss level is actually the boss's name itself. Let's see, I need to try and remember what to do here. I think this is the part where you hide to the side. But no, it's still just the same name as before. So, as you can see, this boss is all about grabbing cannonballs and attacking the face area here. And you just kind of need to, you know, maneuver correctly based on where Kerosene's hands are positioned. Like right now they're up, and you're actually supposed to jump when he does that, otherwise you kind of get stunned. But when he brings his hands down, you then need to stand on them And you really want Dixie for this fight, because she allows you to kind of, dodge his fire blasts, which are really hard to get around if all you have is Diddy. And I still managed to mess that one up, because when the cannonball lands in the middle, and he's shooting fire, there's not really much of a gap in between his shots, so it can be a little bit tricky. But I didn't expect to get it on my first try. Again, like I said, haven't played this in quite a while. Definitely not nearly as recently as, Donkey Kong Country 2. And this boss is definitely also quite a bit more difficult than some of the, original Donkey Kong Country 2 bosses. So, 2 or 3 tries, I don't think that would be too bad. Also, I like how they reused, just Cleaver here. This boss was, it's new content, but it's also like, what old content can we reuse as well? And Cleaver was kind of what got reused. So let's put Diddy out front, so if we lose him, it's not too big of a deal. Are you gonna pound down, or no, this is where I stay to the side? And then we just do a thing like that. And then we move to the side again. I'm trying to think, like, what Donkey Kong Country series boss this would most remind me of. There aren't really bosses that kind of hang out in the background and just attack like this. This reminds me a lot of like the final boss of Wario Land 3, come to think of it. For anyone who has played the Wario Land games, people will know I absolutely love the Wario Land games, although the name of the final boss, which I should know, is actually eluding my my mind right now. I can't remember his name, but if you played Wario Land 3 and beat it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you gotta watch out for that. Just keep on taking my money. So technically we can only try like 6 more times after this, because Swanky Kong is just the biggest cheapskate ever. The sprites, though, definitely do not look too bad, considering it's the Game Boy Advance. I mean, like I said, you can tell everything is quite crushed, but at least they didn't do what series like Mega Man, when it made its transition to the original Game Boy, did, where Mega Man's sprite is like super huge on the screen, and everything else is really big as well, and it just feels really clunky and kind of uncomfortable to play. Where, I mean, I understand why they did that, because taking an NES game and transferring it to the Game Boy is not always a simple thing. You also have, like, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, which kind of did that, where they tried to transfer Mario Bros. 1 to the Game Boy Color, and things had to be shrunk, and the screen size had to be, lessened in order to accomplish that. But here I think they did a fairly decent job, and it controls well too, so I definitely don't have too many complaints about the gameplay aspect of Donkey Kong Country 2 on the GBA. Okay, so what exactly is happening here? Okay. Okay. Now I'm stuck somehow to the right of your hand there, so I think we're going to want to do a thing like that. And then a thing like that. And then you pounded with this one last time, so you're going to pound with the right one this time? Yes, you are. And then there's the cannonball again. I don't like this at all. That's a really scary jump. And I don't like how when he hits the ground with his fire, it like spreads too. Okay, so what is going on here? I think you're gonna pound again? Oh no! Okay, something like that, and then there's a cannonball down there, and then there's fire all over the place, and is that it? Oh dear, I thought you... Okay, well, don't have to be such a Debbie Downer, Swanky Kong. We beat the boss, at least. That's the kind of the important thing. Oh wait, or did I beat the time? What was the point he was trying to make? Okay, I didn't beat the time. And I accidentally pressed the A button, which means that we're beating it again. No, actually, we can just kind of quit the level. And there goes all my banana coins, but I probably don't plan to save, so it doesn't really matter anyway. And that took 10 minutes. So that's Donkey Kong Country 2 on the GBA. There's, again, like those mini games. You saw a quick glimpse of the Funky Kong one. They're nothing overly impressive. It's just kind of unneeded added fodder to what's already a fantastic game. And again, I just wanted to play Donkey Kong Country 2 portably. It's not like, you know, my decision to buy the game was swayed by the fact that there was brand new content I had never played before or anything like that. Also, as people might know, I had a Nintendo Power subscription back around the Game Boy Advance, GameCube, Nintendo DS, and early Wii days, so I actually saw about the new boss before I bought the Game Boy Advance port, so it wasn't like a surprise to me at this, you know, when I got here or anything like that. But I would be curious to hear if there's anyone who was playing through the Game Boy Advance game back then, maybe didn't see about it in Nintendo Power and was like really shocked when suddenly there was a boss at the end of World 6. That would have been, you know, pretty cool experience. But with that said, I think that's where we're going to end things off here. If anyone like really wants to see those mini games or anything like that, we may revisit this. But the addition of the boss at the end of World 6 is definitely the coolest thing in my mind that was changed about Donkey Kong Country 2 on the GBA. Of course, Donkey Kong Country 3 GBA, there's a whole new world added in, which is pretty neat, but I've never been a big fan of the GBA DKC3 because they changed all of the music, and there's debates regarding whether or not the music is better or worse than the Super Nintendo version, but just as someone who grew up with the SNES version and played it so much, it's just really weird playing it with a different soundtrack, and again, whether it's better or not, I just always hear those original songs while I'm playing the levels, so it's just strange. But with that said, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you later.